So I will introduce Marie-Josèphe de Villers. As I said before, she's a lesbian feminist activist and vice president of the International Coalition for the Abolition of Surrogate Motherhood. And in her speech, Marie will address the following questions. Firstly, how cross-border surrogacy invalidates legislation prohibiting surrogacy at a national level. And secondly, in what way is surrogacy to be included among violence against women?
Hello, everybody. I'm very, very happy to be there and to have been invited by the WHRC Germany to talk on surrogacy. I'm going to share my screen right now. Yes, Stephanie gave you the question I'm going to tackle in this presentation. At the end, I will say a few words about our coalition fighting against surrogacy. First of all, it's important to have a very, very simple definition of what surrogacy is. Surrogacy is a practice of recruiting women, whether for money or not, to bear one or more children, whether or not conceived with their own oocytes, and for the purpose of handing them over to a person of persons who wish to be considered as parents of those children. And at the international level, what do we see? In Europe, the practice of surrogacy is banned in about 20 countries. They are the country in red. In yellow, surrogacy is regulated. And in green, they are the countries allowing surrogacy on a commercial level, at a commercial level. But this ban is very fragile. The pressure on states to end the ban on surrogacy is the same nearly everywhere. The media present the practice in a deceptive way as a major medical and social breakthrough, and polls are launched to work on public opinion in favor of its regulation. In Germany, as Janine said, there is also a pressure to regulate surrogacy. Here is the Leopoldina article, a link to the issue they want to promote. And where surrogacy is regulated, nobody is protected because there is a strong pressure to weaken the law. In the United Kingdom, for example, they have the oldest law regulating surrogacy. It is the 1985 Act. Since October 2019, there is a national consultation to change the law. The aim is clearly to remove all the restrictions provided for by the law in order to bring it closer to commercial practices. For example, the surrogate mother in UK has 6 weeks after the birth of the baby to decide to give the baby away or to keep it. And there is a high pressure to get away with this article of the law. In Greece, the law on surrogacy was issued in 2002. To prevent trafficking, it provided that both the intended parents and the surrogate mother had to be permanently resident in Greece. This restriction was lifted in 2015, making Greece a sought-after destination for its low cost and the good level of medical services for surrogacy. And in the United States, 2 states switched recently from regulated to commercial surrogacy, Washington State and more recently New York State. Cross-border surrogacy is a way to bypass any protective legislation. If surrogacy is banned, cross-border surrogacy is available. Clients are looking either for quality and they turn to the United States or to Canada, or they are looking for low-cost places like Russia, Ukraine, or to new places like Kenya, for example. The promotion of surrogacy is rarely meant to meet the needs and interests of the national population. It is developing under the pressure of the globalized market. If surrogacy as a protection of women and children is prohibited in most European and now in most Asian countries, why should it be tolerated outside? Why do we have a double standard? How can we stand that categories of women are being exploited and instrumentalized as breeders, as baby producers? In our feminist point of view, surrogacy is a high potential market. It's a potential market for lawyers, for clinics, for the medical industry, for brokers. Brokers are the agency commissioning parents and surrogate mother together and helping them for the contract and writing the contract. And we don't see any human concern in it. For us, regulation is not the solution. It implies that a category of women are used as breeders. And some of you might have read the book of Margaret Atwood called The Handmaid's Tale, which is a good picture of what surrogacy is. But also, regulation helps make the practice socially acceptable. Therefore, we came to the conclusion that banning surrogacy is a matter of human dignity and the only solution. Now we are going to zoom on a specific aspect of surrogacy. Surrogacy as a violence against women. Let's read now together the official definition of violence in the Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1993. I'll leave you reading it. For us, surrogacy is a medical violence and not a medical solution. Most people think surrogacy is a medical practice, ranking as an assisted reproductive technology. It is not. It's a social and commercial practice. The only medical part in surrogacy is the IVF procedure that it's used, IVF procedure, in vitro fertilization. And surrogacy does not cure the commissioning parents. It does not cure the surrogate mother. And the surrogate mother is a woman in good health without any desire to have children. She will undergo heavy medical treatments and risk her life. And also she has to relinquish most of her rights during the procedure according to the contract. And the surrogate mother health is at risk at all stages of the process. These risks are well documented now. Before pregnancy, surrogate mothers are over-medicalized with hormones, antibiotics, and so on, to improve the IVF success rate. This success rate is a commercial argument for the brokers and the clinic to attract more clients. During pregnancy, surrogate mothers have to undergo intrusive practices. They are often unnecessary, but carried out for the sole pleasure or the sole comfort of the commissioning parents, like uterine ultrasound, amniocentesis, and so on. And we know now that there are a higher risk in surrogacy according to a study than in usual pregnancy. And this study is a result of 10 years of experience of surrogacy in Netherlands. There is also a high risk of preeclampsia for surrogate mothers. And if we have time, I will explain what it is, because it helps to understand why surrogacy is a high-risk practice. And at delivery, it's the commissioning parents who are deciding in what way the delivery is going to be made. And usually it's through C-section. There are also other forms of violence involved in or generated by surrogacy. This sort of violence are now also well documented. There are psychological violence, economic violence, contractual violence, and also physical violence. And about physical violence, there are human trafficking for reproductive purposes. We read about cases in Ukraine, Greece, Myanmar, and recently in Senegal of women being trafficked for surrogacy. In Myanmar, women were trafficked either for prostitution or for surrogacy. They were trafficked to China, because in China there are a lot of clients for surrogacy. And to end this presentation, a few words about our international organization. We were very conscious that surrogacy has to be dealt with at an international level. Then we organized an international conference in Paris in 2016, and then we launched a few campaigns against surrogacy, but campaigning was not enough. And 2 years later, we decided to set up a dedicated feminist organization called ICASM, which stands for International Coalition for the Abolition of Surrogate Motherhood. Starting with 4 founding members, we have now 36 organization members in 11 countries. Feminist organizations are more and more aware that surrogacy is against women's rights. Lately, 2,050 feminist organizations and 250 feminist organizations and 2,100 individuals from 55 countries supported our draft International Convention for the Abolition of Surrogate Motherhood. I will be pleased to talk more about surrogacy or about our organization. Thank you for your attention. And here are the links to our organization.
Thank you, Marie-Josèphe. That was really wonderful presentation. And thank you for being here, of course, as well from France. And now we start with one question in the Q&A. One woman wants to know concerning the graphic at the beginning of your presentation about the gray colored states. How do they approach surrogacy motherhood? I think it's about Ireland, Denmark and some in East Europe?
The grey countries, there is no regulation in the grey areas, and and we don't know what's developing over there. In Denmark, we know that there are clinics dealing with surrogacy, but they don't have proper regulation. Either there are regulations saying that surrogacy is prohibited, that any contract we have no value, or when it is regulated, there is a special law saying that it's allowed in such circumstances with such and such limits. But in the gray area, yet there is nothing. There is nothing yet, but soon there will be a regulation. For example, in Serbia, last year, it was a gray area, and all of a sudden, they changed their civil law to allow for surrogacy. And what did they do? What they did, they were very, very proud of that, because they said that surrogacy, they didn't say that they were surrogate mothers. They were surrogate, they were just surrogates. They tried not to use the word women and not to use the word surrogate in the wording of their law. That's it.
Okay. And where do you see? No, maybe you just want to talk about how can a German or other organization can get members, because I know that you're looking for German members. Maybe you can tell a bit why this is important, and what are the preconditions to get a membership, and maybe also how much it costs.
Yeah, everybody is welcome to be a member of our organization. As I said, we've got 36 members so far in 11 countries. We have organization members in Canada, in Australia, in I'm missing one, in Japan. Yes, I'm starting with the most away countries. And we've got members in Sweden, in Romania, in Belgium, in UK, in France, of course, a lot, in Spain, a lot as well, and in Italy, and also in Belgium. Yes, I've said Belgium. And we would very much like to have more members in other states in Europe. It is something very important, because Europe is the place where surrogacy is banned, and the European Parliament is well ahead about this question of surrogacy, because in 2015 they issued a recommendation, the research a statement saying that surrogacy is exploitation of women, of the poorest women, and it has to be dealt at an international level. That's what the European Parliament said. And it is something very, very important, because, for example, in South America, they always refer to this sentence of the European Parliament. It's to fight against surrogacy. And yes, it's important to have more members in Europe to keep a pressure on the European Parliament to stay in that position, because this statement was in 2015, And in 2000, and last year, we pressed to have the same statement on surrogacy, because they issue a report every year. And in this report, we pressed to have a clear statement on surrogacy, and we failed. It means that they had a high position in 2015, but this position is weakening. That's why we've got to pressure to talk to the European Parliament. And one way to talk to the European Parliament is to be a direct member of the European women's lobby. And we want to be a direct member, because being a direct member of the European women's lobby, we can talk directly to the European Parliament. But so far we've got members in 8 countries in Europe. And to be a direct member of the Women's European Lobby, we need to have 14 countries with members in our organization. That's why you are welcome to join.
And what are the preconditions for becoming a member?
Yes, thank you. I missed this part. First of all, it's important to know that we are a feminist organization, and there are few conditions to get into, to become a member of our organization. You've got to agree with our status, and in our status, it's important. We are defined as a feminist organization with 4 main criteria. We are for the equality between men and women. We are for the legal access to abortion. We are for the emancipation. Yes, thank you. Of women. And the last one, yes, equality between hetero and homosexuality. That's it. And there is a fee, of course, and the fee is 50 euro per year.
Mm-hmm. And coming back also to our other big issue, gender identity ideology, where do you see a connection between surrogacy and gender identity ideology?
We come across that ideology nearly all the times. Last time, you see, in Serbia, what they did, they tried to get rid of any words referring to women or mothers. And researcher, for example, there was a very interesting research on surrogate mothers in Mexico. But the researcher, a women researcher, made it clear that she wouldn't use the words women or the words mothers, and she would only use persons, surrogate person, to not to essentialize the question. And here too, we can see how they try to get rid of the concept of women, try to eradicate the domination, the exploitation between men and women, and just to erase women as well.
Yeah. And also you said something before about the difference of lesbian organizations or lesbians and gay men, how they approach this issue.
Yes, as I'm also a co-chair of a lesbian organization, we were a very old lesbian feminist organization because we are, I think we're 25 or 30 years old, yes. And we were also linked into the LGBT movement in the 20s. And we took part in lots of meetings, and one of them was specific on surrogacy, because the main organization, LGBT organization in France, they haven't taken a stand on surrogacy for or against. They didn't want to take a stand. So we tried to have a specific meeting to know what was the position of the different members of the LGBT coalition. And we were quite surprised to see, it was in 2010, and we were quite surprised to see that there were new LGBT organizations being set up just to get the right to surrogacy. And they were only men, gay men, and they wanted to press on the other organization to access to surrogacy, to change the law and access to surrogacy. And in this meeting, we stand with our feminist position, saying that we disagree with surrogacy for such and such arguments. And in this meeting also, there was a lesbian and gay organization with members, with gay and members outside, French members, but outside of France. And they made an inquiry into their membership, to know what was the individual position of their members. And it was clear when they gave us the result in this meeting that the gay men would be for surrogacy and the lesbians would be against surrogacy. That was quite clear. And from that point, 2010, as a lesbian, we decided to quit the LGBT movement. And most of our lesbian organizations are now are now outside of the LGBT movement in France.
Okay, interesting. And another one asked if Profamilia is a member of your organization. It's a German organization for reproductive rights and education.
And is it a right-wing organization?
No, it's a left-wing.
Left-wing? Okay.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. But I answered it in the chat that you don't have any German members yet.
But there is a point I want to talk about. We started as a feminist organization because in France and in Spain, also in Italy, I think, there is also a anti-surrogacy movement, which is ridden by right-wing ideologies. And in using these 4 criteria in our status, we try to avoid any right-wing member. It's something which is important. We decided we were a lesbian feminist or feminist to start this organization, to set up this organization. And we didn't want to be mixed up with this right-wing movement being against surrogacy. So we made it clear from the very beginning that we're not a right-wing organization and we will never be.
Yeah, and then also one participant just stated in the chat that Profamilia is a pro-gender identity organization, and I wonder if you might comment on that, if this is an issue.
We haven't gender identity is, of course, an issue. And we have asked our member if ICASM, our coalition, would sign also the declaration on the women's rights based on sex. We were ready to sign it. Most of us were ready to sign it, but we realized that most of the feminist organizations, being our member, were not aware of this issue. So we had to we had to do something to make them aware of this issue. They were not ready. Not all of our 36 members were ready to for us to sign the declaration, not because they didn't want to, but because they were not aware of the question. So we have a lot of work to do to present this, to deal with this issue too inside our organization, our coalition. What we say is we are for equality between men and women, not for gender equality, but for equality between men and women. And this is something very important.
Mm-hmm. And Janine, do you want to comment on that?
I think it's a very good thing to think all these topics together. Yeah, to have surrogacy, prostitution, pornography, trafficking, that we put it all together and not side by side, because it is, I think, in other countries is this like it's normal to think it together, but in Germany we have the tendency to pick one topic and to not see the whole thing in one.
Yes, yes, this is, I agree, I completely agree. And in our organization, in our membership, there are there are at least 3 or 4 feminist organizations against prostitution, for example. And in South America and Spain, they've linked the two topics together, surrogacy and prostitution. And they are talking about sexual and reproductive exploitation. They're always dealing with the two topics at the same time. They are organizing Abolitionist Day with conferences, but they are always including surrogacy and prostitution all together, and now gender identity as well. They're really great in Spain and South America and Central America.
Yeah. And Marie-Josèphe, do you want to say something about how the situation in France is concerning surrogacy? Like, I know that it's illegal, but in reference to the public discussion, I know you made great work, and maybe you want to tell about how you changed the public discussion on this issue. Or how you brought the issue into the discussion.
When we started in France, when we started as a lesbian organization to talk about surrogacy, as for us, I've told you, it was a shock to see how the LGBT movement was moving towards surrogacy, towards pressure, towards trying to press to change the law on surrogacy, and we decided to go to a feminist organization to get together and do something about this issue as a feminist and lesbian organization. But it took us 2 years in 2010 to decide them to make a clear stand on surrogacy, because they thought, as in France there was a ban, there was not a problem. It's outside of our borders, so it's not our problem. They didn't see the question properly, so we had to explain and explain and explain. And after 2 years, we managed to issue a common manifesto, the first manifesto in 2013. And then from one organization, feminist organization, to the other, we nearly got all the feminist organizations in France with us in this fight against surrogacy. But it took us a long time. And after that, we had to do something about to explain to the public opinion what it is really, what surrogacy is really. And to explain that it's not this picture that they are always showing of happy parents with happy babies, and not mentioning the surrogate mother and the real condition of this way of buying children. And but this is really difficult to get into the media and explain really what it is. But through the campaigns we are starting, we try to involve more and more people in our campaigns. That's very important. Our last campaign was against the Hague Conference. The Hague Conference is international. It's an international body dealing with international convention. For example, it's the Hague Conference who has issued the International Convention on Adoption. It was a convention, an international convention in 1993 that wanted to stop the traffic on children. So they issued an international convention who was signed by nearly all the countries in the world. But now our conference is working on an international convention to organize surrogacy. So we decided to fight against what they are doing right now. And we tried to fight. It's been 5 years that we are fighting against the Hague Conference, because this work is year after year going ahead to finish this draft convention. And we started an international campaign, and we are very, very happy now to have 250, now it's 280 organizations in the world with us, and also individuals. It means that we're gaining ground. More and more people and more organizations are understanding what it's really mean, this surrogacy, this globalized market against women and children. And something which is also very important, that it is that we are now having links with organization of donor-conceived children. We've got links with an organization in Germany and also in Holland, because donor-conceived children, and amongst them there are children conceived through surrogacy. They issued statements saying that they are against surrogacy. So it's something very, very important also to have a women point of view and a children point of view on that subject.